Well, good evening. It is 7 o'clock p.m., and I'm Greg Ferris, President of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees. We'll now reconvene back into open session. We're moving on to item number 3, introduction for the meeting this evening, and our invocation. Tonight's invocation will be led by Jack Wilkie. He serves as a minister to the Forney Church of Christ. He's been there since September of 2018, after 5 years ministering here in our city. Jack is married to Allison. Together, they are blessed to have a daughter named Gloria. The Forney Church of Christ has adopted Johnson Elementary as their partner campus. The congregation has supported Johnson Elementary by reading to students in kindergarten through 3rd grade. They also allow teachers to take extended lunch hours and have collaboration times. The church is instrumental back in August to help with the school back to school program and donations for teacher appreciation. We're thankful to Pastor Wilkie and the Forney Church of Christ and being partners with our Forney family. So at this time, if you would rise, I'd like to ask the pastor to lead us in prayer.
I'd like to thank the board for the invitation. If you'd like, please join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are so humbled to come before you with so many things to give thanks for. We're so thankful for our country, for the state of Texas, and for this city of Forney, for this ISD. Lord, for all those who are involved in planning and making the decisions. We're thankful for this board and for the administrators and the principals. We're thankful for the teachers, the families, the parents, and of course, the children. We pray your blessing on each of them, on each person who's involved in making this school district all it can be. Lord, I pray that you would first of all give protection to each one involved. Keep our campuses safe, keep our children, our school buses, just everyone involved safe as we begin another year, 2020, and then you would watch over each and every one. I pray for their health, both physical and mental, of each one involved, Lord, and that you would watch over them, that you would let each one know that they are loved, let each one know that they are cared for, and I pray that you would watch over our whole community, help us to be a community that is filled with love and service to one another, a community where people are welcome, and a community where our children can grow up, once again, safe. They can grow to achieve and learn and be able to make use of their lives for the benefit of themselves and for all those around them. I pray that you bless this meeting tonight, help it to be productive, help each one who's here, and give us each safe travel as we go home later tonight. We're so thankful once again for this blessing and all the many things that we enjoy through you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
This is a good crowd tonight, and we do take some time to honor some of our students. We'll move on then to item B here with the Pledge of Allegiance led by some of our students. First, we'll have Ms. Stacy Joseph. She'll be introducing our secondary student of the month, and then Mrs. Bonner will be introducing our elementary students of the month. So after the introductions, we'll rise for the pledges.
Good evening, school board and Dr. Terry, and thank you for this opportunity to recognize Lexington Phillips as Forney Learning Academy's Outstanding Student of the Month. When our FLA staff went to make a decision on who should earn this award, there was no doubt that truly Lexington is our star student for the whole year. Lexington and her family moved here in May of 2017 to join the Forney ISD family. Lexington has a brother at Warren Middle School, Musa, who is in the 7th grade, and her 3-year-old brother, Malik, who will soon join Miss David at FLA Early Childhood. Some of you may be familiar with her story from our district or the news. However, if you do not know, Lexington and her siblings lost their mother to a hard fight against cancer in December. Lexington's story is different from many of our students that received this award because she has truly earned this recognition for the fight she gave to earn her high school diploma. Miss Lexington, over the last few years, missed large amounts of school to stay home, and support her mother and her baby brother. When her mother enrolled her at Forney High a year ago, FLA received a phone call from them explaining Lexington's situation, and we knew our goals program was the place she needed to be so we could help her graduate. When Lexington first joined us in February, she was fragile, scared, and withdrawn. As time went on, Lexington soon began to trust our FLA family, and slowly she came out of her shell to be the person standing to me right now. Lexington went from a shy young lady to a lady that told us what to do on a daily basis. Lexington was a joy to have on our campus, and she has made a huge impact on our staff. As we taught her the material for each class to earn her diploma, she taught us resiliency and displayed tenacity. I'm extremely proud to stand next to Lexington today and give her this award. As Lexington slides into the next phase of her life, she wants the American dream of owning a home one day. She plans on achieving this goal by starting to work for a veterinary clinic and continue to build her career. FLA is thrilled to give this award to Lexington Phillips. Thank you, School Board and Dr. Terry, for this opportunity to award this award to Lexington Phillips tonight.
Thank you, School Board and Dr. Terry, for allowing me to recognize two students tonight from Criswell. One of these young ladies represents our monolingual side of fourth grade, and the other represents the dual language side of fourth grade. Together, they represent our Criswell family. Zoe Bouchenet is the fourth grade daughter of Ezra and Caroline Bouchenet. She has a younger brother and an older sister. She takes part in the Criswell Honor Choir and is a Criswell kid. Math is her favorite subject at school. She loves to play volleyball and collect rocks. When she grows up, she would like to be a chef. Emily Reyes is the fourth grade daughter of Guillermo and Carmen Reyes. She has a younger brother and a sister. Emily is in the Criswell Honor Choir, a member of the Student Council, and the Spanish Club. Emily has participated in the dual language program since kindergarten. Spanish language arts is her favorite subject at school. She likes to play basketball, craft, and make YouTube videos. When she grows up, she would like to be a singer or a YouTuber. We are so thankful to have both of these young ladies representing Criswell tonight. Without a doubt, they have success in their future.
If you would rise for the pledges.
You're in for a treat tonight. We're going to do the American Pledge, and the Texas Pledge will be both done in Spanish and English, if you will stay standing for both.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I honor the Texas flag with pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Honora a la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad a ti, Texas, un estado ante Dios, único y indivisible.
You may be seated.
Ladies, we have. Moving on to item 4A, continuing our student recognitions, we'll like to recognize Ms. Kristen Zestapul, Executive Director of Marketing Communications. Kristen.
Good evening. Our first recognition this evening centers on one of our Forney family values, perseverance. I am pleased to welcome City of Forney Mayor Mary Penn to read a city proclamation honoring one of our students tonight.
Well, I'm overwhelmed, I'm inspired, and I'm honored. This is a proclamation from the City of Forney, whereas family is not an important thing, it's everything. Michael J. Fox. And whereas Lexington Phillips exemplifies this statement when she sacrificed her education to take care of her younger siblings during her mother's battle with breast cancer. And whereas Lexington was able to enroll this past January in Forney ISD's GOAL program. And whereas because of her perseverance, Lexington, on attaining her goal, whereas because of her perseverance, Lexington graduated from the Forney ISD Goals program on December 9th, 2019. And whereas the City Council commends Lexington for attaining her goal and for dedication to her family, and whereas the City Council wishes Lexington the very best in all her future endeavors. Now therefore I, Mary Penn, Mayor of the City of Forney, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby declare January 13th, 2020 as Lexington Phillips Day. And I urge all citizens to reach out and congratulate Lexington on her accomplishments. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and official seal this 7th day of January 2020, Mary Penn, Mayor, City of Forney.
At this time, we'd like to invite the school board and any of our other city council, city representatives up for a picture with Ms. Lexington Phillips.
Moving on next to item 4 under all-state academic recognition. Mr. Neil Weaver, Director of Athletics, will speak at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Dr. Terry, members of the board, and guests, I am both honored and blessed fairly regularly to recognize our students who are awarded some sort of award at the state level. Those typically speak for themselves when it's a team that competes at the state level or a student who's individually recognized in All-State. These are less visible, academic All-State, but certainly just as important. Students to qualify for academic All-State in their sport must have a 92 or higher GPA in all of their subjects. They must be a senior in good standing on their team, in other words, a letter award winner from Forney ISD, and be a valuable contributing member to their varsity program. Tonight we have several If it please the board, I'll call them up by sport with their coach, and then we'll take one photograph together. First, for North Forney High School, I'll ask Coach Holly Perkins to come up and welcome her students. I think, as usual with seniors, when you get to this time of year, it's not uncommon for some of them to be working or have other engagements. So some of our students are here, certainly most of them are here, but for North Forney High School volleyball, we'd like to recognize Kelly Reynolds and Kiara Trejo. Richard Haynes will join us for Forney High School volleyball. His academic All-State Award winners are Emily Cheney and Sarah McKinley Tipton. For Forney High School cross country, Coach Sandy Cook is joining us to recognize Caitlin Acker. For Forney High School football, I appreciate Coach Aaron Woods coming over. He's got his own board election tonight for his booster club, so he'll be going back to elect officers just shortly after this. But he has 4 academic All-State Award winners: Brendan Marks, Riley McMurrin, Grayson Burris, and Landon Irvin. Coach Randy Jackson with North Forney High School football will recognize Jules Demps, Ethan Monaco, Tristan Johnson, Glenn De La Hoz, and Josh Mills. And Allie Hawkins, our North Forney High School trainer, had 2 academic All-State Award winners, Precious Olayinka and Sam Billings. These students balance a great deal of effort both on and off the field, long hours, and obviously have managed to maintain a very high GPA and be outstanding academic students as well. We're very proud of our academic All-State Award winners. Take one big picture. Parents, if you'd like to come up and join us, we'd be glad to have you in our photo. Mr. Coker's going to have to get us in the center.
You can, yeah. with this with some technical difficulties. Oh, I heard it.
No, it's showing muted.
Here it is.
Thank you for investing in our future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for helping me be successful.
Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for providing a seat for every child.
Thank you for investing in our future.
Thank you for supporting Forney ISD.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, January has been declared School Board Appreciation Month across the state of Texas, and so we join with 1,025 other districts in Texas to honor our school board members who volunteer countless hours, time, your talents and services to make our district better. So while you're standing here, we have some very special students here to help honor you tonight. So to honor Becky Dobbs, we have Alexander and Savannah Christian from Claiborne Elementary and Isaac Escarino from Blackburn Elementary. To honor Christopher Andrews, we have Megan McCown from Forney High School and Braxton DeVille from Lewis Elementary. To honor Vice President Chad Johnson, we have Chloe Metter from Warren Middle School and Javier Lira from Smith Intermediate. To honor President Greg Ferris, we have Kylie Rangel from Brown Middle School and Caleb Ball from Johnson Elementary. To honor Secretary Barbara Jo Green, we have Sydney Fishback from North Forney High School and Will Skidmore from Henderson Elementary. To honor Heath Carroll, we have Emily Reyes and Zoe Busini from Criswell Elementary and River Howard and Lexington Phillips from Forney Learning Academy. And to honor Scott Regan, we have Skylar Knack from Ray Intermediate and Luke Rader from Crosby Elementary. I believe Luke was sick today, so. And if you guys will all look at Larry, we're going to squeeze in and take a nice picture.
As our board members make their way back to their seat, I just wanted to make sure everyone knows how blessed we are as a school district for the 7 individuals in front of you. And tell you, these guys give countless hours, and they don't get paid much, actually nothing. They give their time for the over 12,000 students that we have in this school district. So let's give them one more big round of applause.
There it is. Not fooling anybody. Not fooling anybody. Two-minute warning.
You don't know how close you are to that one. She's a pretty sharp lady.
Is this my basket?
It is your basket. I set it right there for you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm just gonna move it out of the way.
Okay, well, we're starting.
I did spend a little of your money today, though.
Thank you all for coming tonight. This is a great time of celebration and spending time with our students and recognizing them, so thank you for allowing us time to do that. We're going to move on to reports. Item number 6. These are for reports only and require no action by the board. First, we'll start off with your monthly financial report. At this time, Mr. John Chase will make our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. The financial report tonight covers the month through the month of November 2019. It's kind of hard to keep 2019, 2020 now. Kind of hard to write the correct date these days, but we're getting the hang of it. But November, the activity for the revenue for the month was $6.5 million. Expenditures were $8.2 million. The year-to-date revenue recognized was $37.1 million, or 35% of the amount estimated. And year-to-date expended was $42.3 million, or 41% amount appropriated. Moving on to the debt service, the collections for the month was $1.1 million, and we had $500 of expenditures. Year-to-date revenue recognized was $2.5 million, or 10% of the amount estimated. And year-to-date expenditures were $15.2 million, or 71% of the amount appropriated. In both cases, we're running really close to expenses as far as the percent expended at this point. As noted in the memo in the board book, we are a pretty good bit ahead on our revenue collections, and most all of that is related to those prior year underpayments and the revenue that we received in early October and November in the case of the debt service fund. But everything's looking good. We're right on track where we think we should be this time of year in both funds. And finally, the cash on hand at the end of November for general fund, food service, debt service, capital projects was $45.8 million. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Moving on to item 6B, it's board self-evaluation. I'll make this presentation at this time. This is an annual review that we do of self-evaluation report. Includes organizational matters of the board, board and community relations, board operating procedures, board and superintendent relations, and board and staff relations, instructional programs, financial management. It's my honor to be working with these committed people on this board up here, and I appreciate their feedback and their insight. But we do want to take seriously all the matters at hand for our 12,000 plus students and staff. So thank you all for giving your input as board members, and I appreciate that, and we'll take it into consideration. Moving on to item 6C, it's our Forney Focus update. At this time, Dr. Judith Weber will make our presentation.
We'll start off with a video as we have in the past, and then I'll finish up projecting into some of the things we're going to do moving forward.
As we wrap up another amazing semester at Forney ISD, we have a lot to be proud of. We passed a bond with a 73% approval rate, and we've seen classroom success with the implementation of capturing kids' hearts. We cannot wait to see what the spring semester brings. In the fall of 2019, Forney ISD opened 2 of our 9 elementary schools as 5th and 6th grade intermediate campuses. The new model has allowed an extension of advanced academics, STEM, fine arts, and athletics earlier in students' academic careers. Due to the success of our partnership with Eastfield and the CNA program last spring, FISD will be offering this program in the fall and spring this school year. Dual credit classes started on August 26, and we are excited to let you know that 450 plus FISD students are taking 2 or more dual credit courses in fall 2019. In October, we announced a new partnership between Forney ISD, Eastfield College, and Texas Tech, allowing Forney ISD students in the community to go from high school to community college to a Tier 1 university, all while staying in Forney. Forney ISD enrolled our 12,000th student on November 5, 2019. We are on track to reach 13,000 students in 2020 and 14,000 in 2021, adding about 900 students per year. We launched a new Forney ISD mobile app in August that reached over 4,200 downloads, and a new monthly community e-newsletter called Enlighten that is averaging 30,000 views each month. The first Forney ISD Resource Fair was a success, helping over 886 students with backpacks, books, immunizations, eyeglasses, and much more. We had another great turnout of community and partnerships at the 3rd Annual STEAM Fest with over 3,000 attendees. Our Forney family partners stepped up for a second year, greeting our students on the first day of school at the Back to School Bash. On October 30th, FISD partnered with the Lions Club and First United Methodist Church in Forney to provide free eye exams and glasses to 64 students. We want to thank Dr. Darla Ferreira and Dr. Joel Elstein for volunteering, and our Synergy students as well. The annual Pack the Pantry food drive was in full swing during October, and on November 7th, we picked up over 20,000 canned goods to take to the Forney Food Pantry. We want to thank FISD Air Force JROTC, who picked up and delivered the canned goods. We also want to thank several businesses in our community who came out and helped. Our Forney ISD art students from pre-K to high school participated in our holiday card contest. The top 3 from each category, 1 overall winner, were recognized at the December board meeting. The Special Populations Department over the last 6 months has hired staff for the 2019-2020 school year. This semester, 61 students are participating in our Forney ISD Economics Virtual Academy course. We are excited that this virtual course will prepare our students for advanced online learning opportunities that will give them the skills they need for their future. Forney ISD welcomed more than 200 new employees this school year. Many positions are from the rapid growth we have experienced. We are so excited to get to work with these amazing educators. We have been meeting with teachers in Forney ISD. This year we are preparing them with a survivor guide filled with classroom management tools from Teach Like a Champion that align with our brain-based practice. Content leads have been selected, and we've already hosted 2 meetings. Looking forward to how these leaders continue to support learning through their implementation of the Future Ready curriculum. Forney Leadership 2.0 is underway, and they have learned about accountability, human resources, and are working on 2 book studies, Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You and Bramlett's Servant Leadership Roadmap. Both North Forney High School and Forney High School volleyball teams set a new record, finishing 1st and 2nd place in the district respectively for the 2nd year in a row. All of our athletic teams are serving our Forney family community through various service projects. And several of our student athletes signed their letter of intent with colleges and universities this past November. As we move into the spring semester, we are extremely excited to continue with capturing kids' hearts with relationships first at the core of our district values.
So Dr. Terry and school board members, that's just a snippet of many of the things we've done since our last Forney Focus update. So I'm going to spend a few minutes and kind of project what we're going to do in the next coming semester as we finish the school year and move in through the summer. And I'll kind of group them by board goal also. So as far as learning organization, we really have a lot going on this spring with master planning, and it'll be exciting in the next few months as we start to bring plans and put things together for some of our new buildings and programming for our intermediate and middle school. It'll be exciting to see these plans really fleshed out and be able to share, but we've got a lot really going in terms of getting some campuses open. There will be a lot coming up in the spring with maintenance security. Rick later on in his presentation will highlight some specifics of things that will be occurring in the next few months and then moving into next school year. For our learning standards and our research-based curriculum, just like we master plan for new buildings, we are always improving our educational programs, and we meet extensively to go over what can we do to make sure we not only have the facilities for our students, but that we're improving our educational programs. And so we're continuing to expand our Future Ready curriculum. And so we've got some things really coming up. Well, we're currently working on quite a few things then moving into next year, but upcoming, we'll finish out 7th and 8th ELAR geometry, and 4th ELAR is getting some modifications to meet the new TEKS. And as new TEKS come on, we always have to update and change some of our Future Ready lessons. 5th and 6th math are complete, but 4th math and 5th advanced math will be completed by spring break. And then next year, we're gonna revisit 5th and 6th ELAR to tweak some of the alignment with the new TEKS. And then a 5th, 8th focus on advanced academics. So really fleshing out our Future Ready curriculum so that we can support our advanced students. Moving into learning environment, we had back in 2017 Forney Focus 2.0, and you can see some of the lines. we have existing programs and we have things that were in place, but we want to make sure that we get those lines all the way across in all areas and improve our instructional programs. So one thing we always want to look at is what can we do to increase opportunities for our Forney students? And we're not happy just with what we have, but as we grow, we also are trying to grow our programs. So one area in particular that we've really worked on in the last few years was increasing the identification of GT students across the district, trying to match the demographics of our district. And as we identify students, well, then we need to make sure we serve them properly. So looking at what we're offering in terms of at the high school level and offering more advanced courses, and then increasing enrichment opportunities for our GT students. So we're actually exploring what would it look like in a district, how do other districts do their programs, and what can we do even toward looking at pull-out programs to really pull kids together and enrich their opportunities as GT and advanced students. As far as extra and co-curriculars, we're looking also again at our elective offerings and what can we do to increase opportunity for kids when they have choices and actually can take classes that interest them the most. And the beauty of our model is starting down in 5th grade, students can actually choose some of their classes, but we're looking at extending some of our athletic programs into dance and outdoor education, looking to expand our fine arts programs, and of course I included a picture of our youngest learners. With House Bill 3, what can we do to start this implementation of all-day pre-K that's been mandated out of House Bill? How do we roll that out and what will come? So we'll be filling you guys in the next few months with our plans and processes for our programs of all ages. For our secondary students, we're really excited that we can offer 11th and 12th grade ACT in the spring of 2020 at no cost for students or parents. So what a blessing for our district. The funds are provided from the House Bill 3 allotment, but really getting that data and helping a student get one step closer to their future by testing them while they're here in school and getting that data that they'll need for future endeavors. Our higher ed partnerships, that was touched on in the video, but right now, currently we have 5 students who have applied for graduation with their associate's degree already from Eastfield. But 100% of our fall CNA students, they've taken their CNA certification and they've passed, and our next cohort has already started. So these are the kind of things that the video shows what we've done, but these don't stop. We're continuing to enroll kids in these programs and have a new cohort going through. And then Eastville and Texas Tech community meetings are scheduled for January, February. So these partnerships are ongoing. In terms of our higher ed partnerships, we're also excited to let really everyone know that once a month we will have advisors on our high school campuses to meet our students' needs. We're not going to just say, hey, you want to join this program and not provide the support that they need. And then our first cohort of Collegiate Academy will begin in the 2021 school year. So more information to follow on that. For our learning organization, I put together this graphic here. It just is kind of a snippet of many of the things that we've brought in the last, say, 4 or 5 years. Our FRCs, brain-based instruction, our Forney values, Canvas, Chromebooks, all the rich technology we have, and then CKH layered on top. So our teacher induction process is quite lengthy. It's really hard to come into our district and get something in a week setting. So we are putting together a plan for a systemic professional development process for our new hires to go through. We know that if they've not used Chromebooks, if they're not a Canvas LMS district, if they've really not been through CKH, the brain-based, they're kind of a brain-based teacher, but what does that really mean? We are putting together a plan and process. So this is kind of just a snapshot of many of the topics a teacher gets when they come to new teacher induction week. And we recognize that you cannot learn all of this in 1 week. We just kind of, here's a snippet of everything. It's kind of an intro to what Forney believes. So if we're going to really honor what we believe, we're going to spend the next few years and go into a deeper dive by providing PD for our teachers. So in year 1, they'd get a deeper dive into future-ready curriculum, brain-based, the kind of things they need to really survive as a teacher is how to be a good Canvas, how to use Edugens, how to use Skyward, and differentiation in the classroom. And then not leaving a teacher after year 1, well, you're done, you should be fully equipped, but going into year 2 and 3 with really extensions of training to make sure that they really are part of our Forney instructional family, and teaching with technology. The state's really pushing GT certification and really ESL certification for all our teachers. So coming up with a comprehensive plan, so when you join our Forney team, here is a process that we'll walk you through 3 years. And then this little graphic kind of shows through DOI, we can keep a teacher on the probationary contract for 3 years. And then when they've completed the courses and are successful in the classroom with what we want, it's tied in with them getting their term contract. So more information to come on this. But we want to honor and take care of our teachers by providing the kind of professional development they need to be a member of our Forney team. As far as digital learning, this was mentioned in the video, but we've really started this year. Our Chromebooks, our LMS, our Forney ISD teachers, and then offering our first virtual course that 61 students. More tried to get in. We had some schedule conflicts, but it's just going to grow. So next year, we will have a virtual course for government economics and world geography so that more and more students will have the opportunity. Our goal is to, before every child graduates, they've had the opportunity to take a virtual course. You know, colleges and universities are going that way. My sons are in the military, and they take virtual courses even for some of their military training they need to do, because it's just the wave of the future. So if we can teach them how to do it here in a safe setting with some safety nets, we're just really empowering our students to be successful in the future. Our community partnerships continue to grow. You saw many of the things we did first semester. Coming up really soon, our ESL partnership with Navarro and our adult ESL classes. Our electrical program is continuing to grow. Next year, we'll have our first group that's in an internship that will actually be paid. So that's a really positive program. Rely On Credit Union is really in the talking stages of how can they partner with us to provide services to our students and families. And then, of course, continuing our customer service as our school reaches out to the community. We're really all meshed together. So that's just a little tidbit of some of the community partnerships we have going. So we have a lot to be very proud of and a lot that we're going to do in the future. And once again, this could be a whole evening workshop. But here's just a few of the things we wanted to highlight for you guys and what's coming forth down through the summer. So at this time, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Moving on the agenda, item number 7. No one is signed to speak to the board, so we'll move on then to item number 8, consent agenda. The board may take action each separately or collectively. Item 8A is minutes from the December 2nd meeting. 8B is approve the budget amendment. 8C is approve class size waivers. 8D is approve update 114 as a final reading. 8E, approve the DEC local as a final reading. 8F, approve contractor for audit services. 8G, approve purchase of Engage to Learn package. 8H, approve the purchase of electronic signage. And 8I, approve the purchase of campus security cameras. Once again, the board may take these separately or collectively. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that we approve the consent agenda collectively as presented.
Mr. Johnson's made a motion to approve collectively. Do I have a second? Second. Is that Regan? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you. Moving on to item 9. Consideration and approval of an order authorizing the issuance by the Forney Independent School District of its fixed-rate unlimited tax school building in one or more series as designated by purpose and series, levying continued direct annual ad valorem tax for the payment of one or more of the series of bonds, prescribing that the form, terms, conditions, and revolving other matters incident and related to the issuance, sale, and delivery of one or more series of bonds, including the approval and distribution of one or more official statements pertaining thereto, authorizing the execution of one or more for the paying of the agent, registrar, agreements, and purchase contractors, each pertaining to the series of bonds, complying with a letter of representation on file with the depository trust company, delegating the authority to the certain members of the Board of Trustees and district staff to approve and execute certain documents relating to the sale of each series of bonds, and providing for an effective date. Mr. John Chase will present at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As you know, there's been many hours and days and weeks and months that we've all kind of been engaged in to get us to this point tonight. Just to kind of give you a little background, as you know, we had a bond election in November 2019 for $623 million authorization for elementary schools, it says there, but there was other things in there, the intermediate schools, a college and career center, and various other projects that was included in that. Tonight, what we're asking you to do is it's a parameter order, which is basically under certain conditions that you guys will give us the authority to go out and to issue up to $113.8 million in order to build a new intermediate school, a new middle school. It would include design fees for future elementary schools and other miscellaneous additions and renovations in the district campuses. So this, what we're proposing that we would do is this parameter would basically be open for the next 12 months, and the first sale that we would do would be $70 million that we would start immediately and probably wrap up and actually get the money in our account probably in February sometime. Reason why we would like to do it in two phases, we've talked to our construction managers, Vaughn's here tonight, and Jeff, his assistant. They basically have given us a draw schedule, and we feel like this first $70 million, it'll probably take us, in all actuality, probably through till next January before we actually need the final 4.3. But we would have basically 12 months. We could sell it any time between now and then, if we were if the rate at which we were consuming cash was a little quicker than we were projecting. But right now, that's kind of what we'd see. We would sell this January and probably follow it up the next January with the final sale of this. But basically, what impact that has on our debt service schedule and our tax rates and so forth is the first 10 years. It's $2.6 million of additional debt service. Thereafter, it'd be $4.5 million. The final maturity date for this is going to be 30 years. It'd be August 15 to 2050. And so, in order to and we'll look at it here in the next slide or so, but basically, a tax rate at our projected property values of about 4.2 cents would generate enough revenues in order to make the debt service payment on this additional debt that we have here. And so just kind of jumping into the finer points of our debt service schedule. If you look on the left side here, this is kind of what we're currently doing right now. And as you can see in the 2020 area, we've got our tax values are up 17.4%. And we're projecting about 10% next year. And that may be low, but we really took a look at it and I feel like it isn't going to be much lower than that, if any. I mean, I think we'll think it'll be higher. Justin's got a Whataburger bet on this one with me, but we do want to be somewhat conservative whenever we're putting this together. And we've shown you guys some other runs on this where we've gotten even more conservative with this and flatlined our property growth at 3% going forward, just to see. If we put that much stress on our debt service, could we still make our payment? And the answer was yes, with certain conditions that we'll follow up with this next action item. But anyway, you can just kind of see down through here again. After the first year, which this is just a half year of interest, that's why it's not 2.6 million. But from there on down, it's 2.6 basically, and then it's 4.5 for that point forward. But this is just the first 10 years here, and you can just see the change in the debt service. And I know we're levying 50 cents, and we've talked about this, in other board workshops and board meetings, that the excess capacity that we generate on 50 cents, we've already got an authorization in place in order to call redeem bonds early that we've got out there outstanding right now. So we're still going to take that excess capacity and do that if there's any left between now and the next bond issue that we have, and I think there will be. But that's kind of the plan moving forward, and we still have plenty of capacity, as you can see, to issue that next tranche of debt service, that 43 million or so that we have left over after the 70. So we're in pretty good shape there, we think, and moving forward with this sale. And so just kind of as a summary, you saw the bond docs. I know we killed a couple of trees putting out the board book this time with all the bond authorizations and resolutions and things that were in there, all the legal documents that are required for us to issue these bonds. But it started on page 96 and went through 142 with the school building bonds, Series 2020. In that order, it basically gives the superintendent and myself the authority to sell these bonds and execute the deal under certain parameters. As we mentioned earlier, first, it has to be within the next 12 months, the first one, and then secondly, the true interest cost can't be more than 6%. Now, that's really high. I mean, I think interest costs right now are running in the low to mid threes, really, in all actuality right now. We've gotten some really, really favorable rates at this point. So in the absence of Dr. Terry and myself, the board president and board secretary could also execute the transaction when they're ready to do that. So if these conditions aren't met, which I don't foresee any scenario where that wouldn't be the case, but if they weren't, then we would just basically cancel the sale, come back and ask you guys to reauthorize under whatever parameters are in place at that point. But we feel like this is going to be more than adequate enough to carry us for the next 12 months. I don't see any scenario where we get anywhere close to that 6% threshold. But that's kind of what the parameter order says. So that being the case, our recommendation is that we would execute this order and grant us the authority to move forward with this parameter sale of the first tranche again is $70 million. The next one will be 43 for a total on 113.8, I believe it is. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. I appreciate all the details. Dr. Terry, what is your recommendation?
Mr. Ferris, just a couple comments real quick, just to remind everybody, before we came to the board, as we discussed throughout the bond process, we said that there would be 2 trigger points that would have to green light. One of those is the enrollment need, and as you know, middle school is creeping up on us very fast. I think our principals would agree with that, as well as intermediate. That is where our fastest growth is right now. So the enrollment green light is lit right now, and I think what you just saw from a taxing capacity standpoint, very healthy financially from the debt service perspective. We've got capacity there to go ahead and move forward with this parameter sale. Also, just want to commend and just tell you how proud I am of this board, of our school district, of John, of our team that's over there in the audience. 3 years ago, this probably wouldn't have been as much of a discussion, and today we're very excited about our financial health. So I'm very excited to recommend that you adopt the order as presented tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Ferris?
Yes, sir.
A couple questions. Mr. Chase, just want to clarify, make sure I understand right. The 113.8, that is needed for the 2 schools and the design. Why are we breaking it up into 2 sales?
So it's a good question. So when we looked at the draw schedule, the cash draw schedule, we didn't think, in the first 12 months, we think $70 million is all we're going to need. And so the interest clock on that debt, it starts as soon as you sell it. And so we're just deferring the interest that we would have to pay on that other $43 million for 12 months. And is the reason why we did that. And so there's enough savings there, we felt like, when we talked to our financial advisor, and it gives you some more clarity. That's the other point, is that by that time we get ready to sell the next tranche of bonds, we'll actually have property values, and Dr. Terry he'll have bought me that Whataburger, or I'll have bought him one, whichever the case may be. But we'll know have some certain what our values are in 2021, so we can model our debt service schedule accordingly with that. So it's twofold, basically.
Okay, that answers both. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the issuance of 40 independent school district unlimited tax school building bonds in 1 or more series by delegated sale.
A motion by Ms. Dobbs. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, consideration and approval of a resolution by the Board of Trustees for the Forney Independent School District authorizing the issuance of obligations designated as Forney Independent School District's Maintenance Tax Notes, Series 2020, making provisions for the payment thereof to the annual levy of the district's maintenance and operation ad valorem taxes and providing an effective date. Mr. John Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. As Christian Merritt, our financial advisor, is making his way up here, I'll just say that, as you know, when we originally built the budget this year, there were several construction renovations and things like that in the district that we had planned to do, or at least we had allocated some money for while we could identify those projects as the years year progressed, and so. Initially, we were gonna pay cash for those transactions and or for those renovations and so forth, but we thought maybe it might make more sense for us to do this with tax notes at this point and save the cash. And Christian's here tonight. He's got the terms of the bids that he received on the tax notes and everything. And I'm going to turn it over to him if he'll let me.
Yeah, so John pretty much covered the thought process behind it. We had several conversations regarding, can we issue this debt and can we build these schools? And part of that was, the word we were using was safety net, to kind of discuss how, what additional cash could do for us. So that was a lot of the thought process behind why to finance this as opposed to pay cash. Here is the project list that is going to be what the maintenance tax note is going to be used for. Culinary renovation, security, flooring, the hub, rekeying, security for cameras, stuff like that, turf, security film, admin building renovations, and furniture. And again, if y'all remember that real big spreadsheet that kind of laid out the multiple sales, kind of the first 350 or so million, I think, is what we were looking at originally in October. Cash was a big piece of how we were going to make sure that in the event that we did have an economic slowdown or, nationally or in Forney specifically, if the values weren't continuing to grow based on the projections we had, even though we thought they were conservative, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have to get into any dire circumstances. So that cash was that safety net. So we got a total of 13 bids on the maintenance tax notes. The winning bid was 2.02% from Chase Bank. The all-inclusive cost, in our world we call it the AIC, that would be like the APR if you're buying a car or buying a home. So that includes all fees, expenses, everything associated with the transaction, came in at 2.25. It is a non-callable bond, or maintenance tax note. Again, at this rate and with the strategy that kind of took us to using a maintenance tax note anyway, the non-callable feature does make a lot more sense. We did get some bids that had call options, but the combination of the unlikeliness of using them and the spread between what those came in at and how strong this bid was, I think that this is going to be the winning bid. Again, it's 10 years. Average payment is $728,000, and the project amount that the district will receive is $6.5 million. And then this is just a breakdown of the exact debt service schedule, what it would look like. Did y'all have any questions?
Thank you, Christian. Any questions from the board?
Just one, Mr. Ferris. I know these are not callable, but do we have the ability to pay this loan, these early without penalty, or are we locked into the interest rate?
No, sir. So no prepayment whatsoever. Okay. Under the non-callable means it's not only that you can't refinance it, you also cannot pay it early.
So we're locked into the interest that we're showing here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that might sound a little bit more aggressive than it actually is, because 10 years is the typical call period for like a bond. The entire term of this is 10 years. So it's a little bit more normal than it might sound.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Carroll, we did discuss that a lot about whether to go with a little bit higher rate and allow the flexibility of a callable tax note. One of the things we discussed was if we did come into any additional cash, that we would rather just put that back because of the rate that this is coming in at with inflationary movement. It's almost at a rate where it would be almost null, if that makes sense. And we project that with that additional cash, we may actually make more off of it in the long term.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
good question.
Dr. Charity, what is your recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Again, just an extra layer, extra layer. We feel very healthy, or look very healthy right now financially, but this is that extra layer in safety net as we discussed. And so I recommend that we adopt the resolution at the terms presented.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. If there's no further questions, I'll take a motion.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of Forney Independent School District Maintenance Tax Notes Series 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much for passing the resolution. Moving on to item 11, consideration and possible approval of purchase of turf and track replacement. Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, and School Board. As you can tell by the picture I presented here is that our turf and track at Citibank has kind of gone past this life cycle here. The administration recently received proposals from two of the most reputable turf and track replacement contractors in the area. Both contractors brought samples of their products and did a presentation in front of district staff as well as from our construction management team. As part of this process, we also went on some site visits, Coach Woods, Coach Weaver, and myself, to several different area fields where these two contractors had actually just recently installed track and turf. In addition, Coach Weaver, our athletic director, sent out multiple surveys to districts who had replaced their turf in the last 3 years to receive information on product and quality of service. After careful consideration, the proposal from Hellas Construction was determined to be the best value for the district. So I have a picture here of a mock-up that they presented to us. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Chase, our CFO, to talk about the financial side.
Thank you. So as you know, that in the background memo, we had that we got these bids, or these quotes came in off the purchasing cooperative. Buy Board is what Hellas quoted theirs off of. And one of the reasons why we chose to do it this way is you know, there's a few other contractors out there that do fields, but when we talked to our construction management team, you know, these two companies, Symmetry and Hellas, are top-notch companies, and those were the two that really the decision-making process that we needed to use. And so, you know, if you open it up for a bid and you get some of those other companies that come in and may lowball you and that kind of stuff, that we didn't feel like that was going to be something that we would want. So. By doing it through this purchasing cooperative, we get to select, you know, from the vendors that we know can do quality work. So, as in background, you know, the total cost to Hellas Construction would be 1.405, 350, and then our construction management team has also recommended that we earmark about $65,000 to do materials testing as part of the project for a total project cost of $1,469,350. So that said, our recommendation is that we would approve the proposal from Hellas Construction to replace the turf and track at Citibank Stadium for a total project, or for a total cost for them is $1.40350.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, for further explanation or recommendation?
Yeah, this just, if you'll recall, Citibank renovation, refurbishment has been a multi-year process, and this is just another step in that, and we're excited to bring to you this bid and recommend its approval this evening.
Thank you. Have any questions from the board?
Mr. Ferris, I have a couple.
Yes.
The memo behind here says that if approved, it would start in April of this year, and that'd be complete for the fall sports then?
Correct. That's my understanding when you know, I don't know it's a short time frame, but if they can get rolling like April 1st, I mean, they're just going to take every bit of that, but, you know, weather permitting, it will be ready to roll for football season. That's what you're asking.
Yes. Okay. And then it'll be marked as the mock-up shows here for football and for soccer?
Yes, sir. I believe that's correct. Yes, sir.
President Ferris, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are we looking to go with what's identified here with the Forney ISD in the end zone? Is that a true reflection of what's planned?
I think that's right. I mean, Rick can speak to it a little bit more, but my understanding is that, you know, we don't know what the future is going to bring, and so, you know, if you label the field where it's got the two high school logos on there, and then if for some reason or another we had a third high school in the mix, and, you know, it just wouldn't make sense at that point. So we're just trying to be standard with it. And I don't know if that's more or less what you're.
After doing some research on what some other school districts are doing, this is a very common model right here of what you see with Forney, the school district, on the end zones and with nothing in the middle. The only thing different here, we may change the lettering a little bit. There's what's called a varsity lettering, so it may look just a slight bit different with a little bit of a border around the letters, but that's pretty close to what we're looking at. Yes, sir.
As we've surveyed multiple districts, as Rick was saying, you know, districts like Prosper ISD, for example, have gone, this will be a replica of what their field looks like on their new stadium. It's becoming more common to brand as a district. And so some of the things that we're looking at doing as we continue to refurbish is add some of the signage for the schools in places that could be expanded or changed in the future for a little bit less cost than a turf would be.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Ferris, just one question. This goes back to the previous item as well for all the construction products, as well as this one. Last month, we entered into a new agreement with Gallagher to manage some of our smaller projects. Do we know how this project, as well as the list from the previous item, will be managed from a construction aspect?
Yes, this and again, Vaughn's there, so I'm going to brag on him again, but he's taken this under his project management fees that were reduced fees from our original contract. So again, we thank him. He brought that to us. I'll say that again. And so we're appreciative of him leading this project again for us.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
So I'll direct a question to Mr. Gallagher. Now, remind me, didn't we have a company that had issues before we did turf? Like we had to change companies or something? Are you comfortable with this one?
I am. The two.
You remember what I'm referring to? Didn't we, several years ago, have to address a problem?
We did. That particular field, there was a problem with the turf after the initial company that put it down was fine. They're not in the mix on this. But then it was a manufacturer's warranty that we had to deal with to get the turf replaced and back. What we did is we brought two companies that we are confident with that have performed in the past. And the best thing I can say about both of them is that when something went wrong, they both stood up and fixed it. So there's a lot of groups out there, but I felt like that would give us a competitive option to buy and co-op, to have a choice of one of those instead of throwing another one in the mix that would lowball it. And there's so many factors out there with that field, sub-base, different things. Probably one of the best things we did is we did the geotech report prior to getting the pricing, so everyone knows what to anticipate. But we just needed a company that could perform and was trustworthy, and that's where we came up with those two.
Maybe remember sub-base. Is that part of the project, doing repairs to the sub-base or improving it, or we're okay with the way it is?
So they'll take that turf off. They'll do remedial to the sub-base.
Okay.
The sub-base and drainage are in good shape. There'll be an entire sub-base and everything done with the track.
Okay.
The track will be different than the turf.
Okay. Thank you.
And just one more quick, starting in April is a great time. Most of these jobs don't get to start until mid-May, 1st of June. So I truly think they will try and use resources to get our job almost complete or complete prior to being deep in the summer when they probably have another 50 fields. So I think by the district allowing us to use the time, I think it'll price, it will also significantly impact getting it done.
So just to clarify, you said that the track will have an entire new sub-base put down for it?
Right.
Okay. Good.
There's several issues that have just taken place over time, and there'll be a lot of work developed.
We talked about the lack of expectancy of the turf, but what is it of the track? How long should we expect this track to last once we repair or replace it?
So the turf is 8 years.
Okay.
That's a manufacturer's warranty. I think we've exceeded that a little bit, which is common. The track is usually a 5-year, but it's not a 5-year total replacement. In 5 years, you have to put down a new surface on it. It just depends on what all's taking place. That's kind of the typical. And then you get another 5 years out of it. Hopefully, if the sub-base is done this time, per the geotech report, then as we move through this, we just have to put a new surface on, or in 10 years, scrape the surface back down to the asphalt and then put a new surface on. But in 5 years, hopefully, it will just be another surface.
Thank you very much. You've heard the recommendations from staff administration. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the purchase of the turf and track replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12, consideration and possible approval of preemptive rezone of Lakewood Trails. Ms. Kim Horsack, Chief of Information, Innovative and Technology Services, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As you recall, at the last rezoning information we got from Rocky, we noticed that Claiborne was getting pretty full, and so we looked at preemptively rezoning Lakewood Trails. We've discussed this before. This time we'd like to ask the board's permission to move forward to go ahead and rezone Lakewood Trails from Claiborne to Henderson. We talked to the developer, and there's no one who'll be in those homes for 2 months. So there are no students living there, no families living there at this time. So it's a perfect time to go ahead and make that move. This is what the demographer report shows before the rezone. Claiborne is a 700 campus. It has a special program there, so that takes some rooms away. So 700's pushing it for Claiborne, and so they were going to be pretty up against it next year. If we move Lakewood Trails to Henderson, it gets Claiborne down below 700 for the next 10 years. Obviously, as we continue to open buildings, that will change a little bit, but it does take that pressure off Claiborne, and Henderson has the capacity to handle it. So this time it would be our recommendation to rezone Lakewood Trails from Claiborne Elementary to Henderson.
Thank you very much. Dr. Terry, what is your recommendation?
I would concur with Ms. Morsack. We can go ahead and move this without affecting kids. That's always a good thing if it's going to help us out in the future. So approving this will help our balancing of schools for sure.
Any questions from the board? I hear no questions. I have a motion, please.
Mr. Ferris, I move that the board approve the preemptive rezone of Lakewood Trails.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you. Moving on to item 13, consideration and possible approval of facilities naming committee. Dr. Justin Terry, I'll turn it over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Board, as you know, with the excitement of upcoming schools, we have a tradition here of naming our facilities after namesakes within our community, and I've requested nominees from you to serve on that committee as we go forward this spring to gather names. You have given me feedback. CW Local requires the board to nominate 3 and the superintendent to nominate 2. In your board package, you should have seen the 5 names that were nominated to help serve on this committee and represent our community. I'm also asking tonight that within your motion language, CW Local also ask that you task the superintendent to ask community, students, and staff for nominations for that committee to look over before they present a list to you as a board to make that final decision. So you'll see that within the suggested motion language as well. So I do have 5 nominees tonight to serve on that committee, and would recommend that you approve and task these out to develop a list for the board to make decision on for any school construction started within the 2020 school year. So that's looking at 2 to 3 schools, campuses this 2020 school year.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes, sir. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions from the board?
Is this a committee that will be reviewed annually, or is this just for this first phase of schools?
Yeah, so specifically, policy would give us direction that you are to give them a task. And once their task is complete, you can re-up the committee to serve again the following year, for example, if you needed more schools, or you can develop and recommend a new committee. That's up to the board's discretion.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I hear none. May I have a motion?
I recommend approval of the facility naming committee as presented and task the superintendent to solicit recommendations of namesakes from staff, students, and community members for school constructions started in year 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Dobbs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 14, consideration and possible approval of the resolution to authorize the creation of the Forney ISD Police Department. This time, Chair would like to recognize Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, and school board members. Before I begin, I'd like to take just a moment to express my gratitude for the successful and long-standing partnership the district has had with the Kaufman County Sheriff's Office, really, I think, for the past 15-plus years. Specifically, the efforts of Sheriff Beavers, who is with us here tonight, who worked very hard hand-in-hand with our district to provide a safe environment for our staff and students. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank him and for all his efforts and for his team and what they've done for our district and service that they provided for us. As we assess the needs of our very rapid growing district, we find challenges and that extends across multiple law enforcement jurisdictions. Kaufman County Sheriff's Office, the Kaufman Constable's Office, the City of Forney Police Department, the City of Talty Police Department, and now the City of Mesquite Police Department, which brings a need for us to have more personalized service for our district. Establishing an ISD Police Department would bring value and benefit to not only the district but also to the community, because it would add additional resources to help enhance safety and security. Instead of being one of many components of a larger law enforcement agency, it will be the only focus of the Forney ISD Police Department. Also, it would allow the district to be better equipped in our budgetary planning, as the county's budget runs through October 1st through September the 30th, whereas the district cycle is July 1st through June 30th. Currently, Forney ISD is the only school district in Kaufman County that does not have its own ISD police department. Also, as I was doing some research, of the 1,227 school districts in the state of Texas, there are 248 that actually have their own ISD police department. 34 of those were actually created last year, so we're really seeing a movement across the state with school districts developing their own police department. Kind of a timeline that we proposed here for the implementation is that if it is approved tonight by the school board, that it would probably be around middle of February to meet the statutory requirement, which is the application to TCO. By March 2020, we would like to have hired our police chief, have them in place, and then before the beginning of the next school year, that we would hire a lieutenant and 4 SROs and possibly a dispatcher. So obviously that would not round out our full department, but that's a pretty hefty goal, we believe, in moving forward. Then before 2020 of December of next year, this year, we would hire the additional 3 SROs. So our structure would be to have a police chief, a lieutenant, and then 7 SROs, so 9 total in that department. To help us implement this and to assist with the transition, we are recommending the temporary employment of Chief Craig Miller as the Chief of Safety and Security. The job function will obviously be to oversee the creation of the new police department. Chief Miller has an impressive long-standing career in law enforcement and is a leading expert across the nation in school safety and security. Chief Miller started his career in 1982 and progressed to the ranks of the Dallas Police Department as the 9th largest U.S. police department to become deputy chief. Additionally, Chief Miller served as chief of police for Dallas ISD, which is the 14th largest U.S. public school system with over 160,000 students and over 20,000 employees. Chief Miller has a bachelor's from the University of Memphis in criminal justice and is a graduate of the Southwest Legal Command Management Supervisor's course from the University of Texas at Dallas. Additionally, Chief Miller is a Master Texas Police Officer and a certified Texas law enforcement instructor. Since his retirement from Dallas ISD this past December, Chief Miller has been working closely with TEA, the Texas School Safety Center, and the legislators in Austin to audit and revise emergency management operations. So we feel his expertise would benefit us greatly to have him on board as a temporary placement until we get our chief of police. So I've kind of listed a few of the things that he will be doing, that just so he'll know here public, he's here with us tonight. That will not encompass everything. And so, but it will get us started on the right track in developing and implementing our, so we really believe this is the right step for us to move forward. In this process, we have solicited advice and input from Sheriff Beavers, and so I'd like to invite Sheriff Beavers to the podium to share a few words in regards to the implementation and transition. Sheriff Beavers.
Well, thank you very much. I can't express enough about the relationship that we have had over the last few years, even as being chief deputy, now being your sheriff, that the relationship that we've grown over the years from 2 SROs all the way to 8, it has been tremendous. I will tell you the last couple of years working with Dr. Terry, Mr. Ferris, and the board, that we have really overcome a lot of things that was a little tough at first, but we made it work, and it was nice to see the infrastructure of the board along with Dr. Terry that made it work really well. I understand where we're headed. I know there's no hard feelings on either side. We had a great working relationship, but I understand we need to look at the safety and security of the children. Plus, we're adding another level of safety for these kids, adding another police department. I am here 100%. I'm always committed to providing whatever resources we need to. There's still a police department, and I'm the biggest entity in the county. I have a lot of resources, and that will always be open to the ISD. We're here 100% committed to what we're doing. I think Mr. Miller is a great guy to work with. The transition will be easy. We did have a good meeting with the employees earlier, me and Dr. Terry, Mr. Gear, and I think that went really well. Whatever avenue they decide to take, as I told them, they're my employees, and I will 100% have them a job if they want to stay with me or if they'd like to apply and go with the ISD. Either way, I'm 100% committed to my employees, because you're only as good as what you surround yourself, and I'm blessed with having a lot of great employees. So whatever I can do, I think Mr. Miller wants to meet next week, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about all the interlocal agreements of starting this with TCO and everything, but I'll give him 100% cooperation of whatever we need to do to make this safer for the kids, plus another police department up here to provide more security. And we'll be here. We're committed as always. Thank you.
Any questions? I'd be glad to help entertain those for you.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. You've heard these comments. What is your recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. First, I'd just like to reiterate what Rick was saying. Our relationship with our Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Beavers, we just thank you guys so much for the service you have provided and will continue to provide in the future. And thanks for a great transition and being so positive in our approach on this and helpful as we move forward. And I agree. I can't tell you how blessed we are to bring on Chief, and With his experience and tenure and expertise, we're excited about a really great transition into an ISD police force. So I would like to recommend tonight that we move forward with the resolution to develop our own school district police department.
Thank you very much. Board, you've heard the recommendations. What questions do you have? Well, I'd just like to take a moment and say thank you to Sheriff Beavers and to Chief Miller over here. I think like we're in the hands of two very capable men. They're experts in their field, and together I know you will build us a great department. So thank you for your willingness to join together to do that. So I appreciate that, and I have no doubts you're going to help us develop what we need to be the model for the state. So thank you very much. If I have no questions from the board, then I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Ferris, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution to authorize the creation of the Forney ISD Police Department.
Mr. Andrews, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ferris, would you mind if we take a photo down
let's
front?
step.
Sheriff Beavers, Chief Miller, if you don't mind joining us. Board? Come on. Show your work, buddy.
Well, that's just another first for Forney as we continue to press on to 2020 and a new decade. So appreciate everybody's support and preparations for that. Moving on to item 15, consideration and possible approval of CKE local as the first and final reading. Mr. Rick Gear.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. This local policy on security personnel is being recommended for revision in our district's policy manual based on the district's desire to create their own ISD police department. The proposed revision to the 2015 adoption of CKE local will better align with our proposed comprehensive safety program of establishing a district police department to include supervisory authority, jurisdiction, police authority, and relationships with outside agencies. In most cases, the local policy adoption process, as described in BF Local, calls for 2 readings of a proposed policy. We will be asking the board to implement the process for emergency adoption with 1 reading tonight. BF Local states, proposed local policy or amendments introduced and recommended to the board at 1 meeting shall not be adopted until a subsequent meeting. Emergency adoption, however, may occur in 1 meeting if special circumstances demand an immediate response. So our asking for the 1 reading tonight is for us to get the TCO application out as soon as possible, and so that's why we're asking for the 1 reading tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Any comments?
No, sir, just recommend the policy as presented on the first and final.
Okay, questions from the board, please.
Sorry, I jumped in there ahead of you.
It's all right.
Just one question, Mr. Gear. The language in this, is that TASB language or is that 100% local? TASB. It is? Yes, sir. Well, it's local policy. Correct. But it was working with Haley Turner, our lawyer, our attorney, as well as working through Brooke Nuston, who is our TASB policy consultant. So it was a joint effort with us. Thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that the Board of Trustees approve CKE local as a first and final reading.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Green. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. Thank you. Moving on to item 16, consideration and possible approval of the 2020-2021 full-time equivalent position additions. Mr. John Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As you know, it's hard to believe, really, that this is already time of the year to start thinking about the 2021 budget, but we've been really kind of planning since probably right before we went on the Christmas holiday, just kind of looking at our demographer estimates and making a staffing plan to staff our schools for this upcoming school year. So, as you know, we start the process off with our enrollment projections. We did get our demographer report delivered to the board in it's either November or December board meeting. We use that demographer's estimate to determine numbers of teachers that we need. It also determines the amount of state aid we're going to get, and we use it in facility planning as well. Just kind of as a reminder that the next, I guess, 10 years, according to his estimate, we're going to be growing on average of about 5.6% student population year over year. So next year, his estimate was 796 students. And so this is kind of what we used in order to start our planning process. When we start talking about staffing, we always keep an eye out on these staffing ratios. As you know, we've looked at this annually for with the board ever since I've been here. I know, and I know Lucas was doing that before I got here as well. But TEA publishes an acceptable range of what they consider student to total staff ratio should be for our districts in our enrollment category. And so, we're somewhere between 7 and 14 students is what they consider acceptable, and we're sitting at 9.1 right now. As you know, in the recent past, we've tried to benchmark about 10 to 1 on a staffing model, and the state's setting it at about 7.5%. So this year, however, as it was written in the board memo, we've got a lot of needs in the special ed area, so it's going to be a challenge for us to stay in that 10 to 1 ratio this year. And so we're basically going to be maintaining that 9.1 with this staffing request. And so what we're asking for tonight is to add 87 positions. Those positions are listed there, and these would all be new to the district. 55 teachers, 9 professional support, 5 campus, 1 admin, 6 instructional aides, and 11 auxiliary. The auxiliary is food service, custodians, and the administrative assistants and those types of positions are included in that category. The total cost of this, I'm estimating right now, is about $5.1 million. In early estimates, whenever I was looking at next year's revenue estimate, we're going to be somewhere over the $6 million mark with revenues and using the 796 students in attendance. And so we feel like this ought to be, well within our budget in order to be able to make that happen. There's a lot going on, as you know, with the House Bill 3, with the revenue estimates and tax rates and the things in the general fund. And I think I have an okay handle on it right now. I mean, it does look like that our tax rate's actually going to be going down next year because there is that revenue cap that the state will allow you to hold on to in your general fund. It doesn't impact your debt service account. I mean, you can, whatever tax increase we get or property value increase you get, you realize the full impact of that in your debt service fund. But on the maintenance and operations side, it doesn't work that way anymore. And so, they peg it about, they'll allow you to have about a 3% revenue gain. And so what that basically means is that the tax value stays the same, but in order to collect the only 3% increase of that, you actually have to compress your tax rate down. So it will probably definitely be lower than 97 cents next year. But, you know, the funding formula is such that, you know, what we don't collect locally with that basic allotment, which is up to 6160 now, that they're going to fill in the gaps with the state aid. So anyway, we feel like this is these are the needs that we have in the district right now, and we would like to, you know, get preliminary approval on this or approval on this so we can start making a plan, get the positions posted, and start in earnest of getting our campuses staffed for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, what's your recommendation?
Mr. Ferris, we feel this pretty conservative approach on our enrollment projections and continue to stay within that ratio system above the state average. We're already trending actually a little higher than where we trended last year. So we may come back to you if we do see growth in enrollment when we get the next quarter report. But feel pretty good about this recommendation tonight, and so would ask that you go ahead and approve the 87 positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, do you have any questions from the board? I hear none. Is there a motion?
President Ferris, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2021 full-time equivalent position additions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. This time, we'll move on to item 17. It will be closed session. It is now 8:42 p.m. We will convene into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551071, 551076. No voting will take place in closed session. Any action the board wishes to take will result in discussions in closed session will take place after we reconvene back into open session. Thank you. We need to wait on the secretary.
She's coming.
What's this trash?
Hey, the letterhead's nice.
Thanks, and Mitchell.
Thank you. It's 9:53, and I'll call this back into open session. We'll move on then to item 18, consideration and possible approval regarding employment of professional contract personnel. Do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve professional contract personnel as discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson, all in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? And I have none. Moving on to item 19, consideration and possible action regarding the superintendent's summative evaluation and extension or modification of a superintendent term contract. I have a motion, please.
Mr. Ferris, I move to extend the superintendent's contract by an additional year and authorize Board President Ferris to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the superintendent in accordance with the board's discussion in executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. That concludes our meeting tonight. Move on to item 20, announcements. Monday, January 20th, we have a district holiday. Thursday, the 23rd, is the health fair at Forney High. Monday, the 3rd, is a regular board meeting. Tuesday, the 4th, is college and career night at Forney High. Monday, the 17th, district's closed. And then March 2nd will be our next regular meeting. And then spring break follows that on March the 9th. Anything I have forgotten, Dr. Terry?
No, sir.
Okay. It is now 9:55 p.m., and I will call this meeting adjourned.